Good afternoon, good evening, good night. I don't know what time of day it is you're going to be watching, but welcome to the Whisky Exchange. And I am so excited to have one of my favorite people on the planet joining me today, Roberto Bava, who is the only supplier, please suppliers take note, that sends me fresh cheese from Piedmont via his son in a 24-hour turnaround. Now, I am sorry to say that that is where my standards now sit. So what I love Roberto is that we've known each other for quite a few years now, and one, of course, he makes some of the best vermouths in the world, if not the best, but also he has the most amazing joie de vivre, and he's an absolute legend, loves his food, always, it's either chocolate, cheese, always something to talk about. So I'm super excited to have you here today, Roberto, and to talk about Cocchi, because there is a hell of a lot to talk about. So welcome.
So ciao Dom, and ciao a tutti. So I understand I will be remembered not for the vermouth, but for the cheese, I understand.
Absolutely. It was like the best thing ever. And I didn't even think he meant it. So he phones me on the Sunday night. He's like, I'm in the cheese shop. Do you want some cheese? I was like, of course I want cheese. Monday morning, cheese.
That was Robiola, for the one who knows. It's a fresh cheese, so it doesn't last more than a few days, and it's such a deep story in the village here. And actually, I'm grown with the salame and Robiola, and I'm normally about the cheese. I tell that a part of my body is made of Robiola, probably one.
Yeah.
Because once you eat all your life, you know, they become part of you. So I'm partially made of Robiola cheese, which is...
Well, I can see why, because it was damn good.
Anyway, the next cheese I'm sending you is a cheese we invented with vermouth. It will be the first vermouth cheese.
Ooh.
Yes, we've been...
So is it going to be like a wash rind?
No.
Or is it going to be like the grapes marinated?
It will be partially a blue cheese to, how to say, spalmare, to put on...
The spread?
Yeah, it will come on a pot like the Stilton. And it will be quite interesting. Anyway, this will be in September. Now it's too hot.
Is that going to come with my my panettone as well? Because I
probably.
like that.
So everything vermouth, we are there.
The only people in the world to produce as much food with vermouth as vermouth itself.
No, actually, we find ourselves to rebuild the story of vermouth for the new generation, because there was a big lack of drinking it and information, and it was almost, well, of course, it was obsolete at a certain time last decades, and so we have to re-educate ourselves and people to know what to do with vermouth. And this is why I'm so linked with food and vermouth to have sometimes a wow effect, like we did the ice cream, the vermouth ice cream, the very first, and praline, which works very well. So the message is vermouth goes well with chocolate, and vermouth is cool. So you have the lollipop ice cream, vermouth, and now the cheese. The panettone is definitely a wow effect. Is 1 kilo.
Oh, it's so good.
And we're using it the canditi, the candied fruit, in vermouth, and that's so good. I mean, these are Sicilian lemon and oranges soaked in vermouth and then in the dough, cooked. And it's quite interesting. You know it, by the way.
I'm sold already. I mean, I love it, and you know, I think you're right. I think vermouth has kind of been one of those things that was just seen as, okay, you add it to a martini and that's about it, and it sits in your fridge for 20 years and is maybe drunk by your grandmother or something, and I think that's totally changed. And I think Cocchi for me is a big part of my re-education on vermouth, because I remember first trying Cocchi with you and thinking, oh, this is good, and I'm a grape person, you know, like. So talk to us a little bit about sort of the history of Cocchi and because it's got such a sort of long and strong history, and you got the geographical indication for Vermouth de Torino in 2017, I believe, as well. So can you just sort of maybe talk a little bit around what makes, or Vermouth de Torino maybe especially, so important?
Well, first of all, funny to say, because a lot of Londoners know us for the vermouth, but actually we believe we are a sparkling wine producer, and we have in any way a particular enthusiasm for aromatized wine. So we produce also the Barolo Chinato, which is one of the history, a piece of history of Piemonte, which is real Barolo with quinine, etc. So, and this has been done for 130 years. So Cocchi, in a way, is the icon for Barolo Chinato and for Americano Aperitivo. So these are the icon, real. But suddenly, why not? We for the 120th anniversary, we decided to come back with a vermouth, which on purpose we discontinued for 20 years.
Okay.
I did it 20 years without producing it because it didn't make sense. Cocchi is a small producer. We are a family company. And in the 80s, if you want to launch like an Amaro or what else, you had to invest millions in advertising, in TV advertising. And vermouth was such a low, had such low positioning that it didn't make sense. We couldn't cope with the cost and the final price you could get. So I simply decided to leave for a while vermouth and go on with Barolo Chinato and Americano because they were the pride of the company. And of course, you need to know, Dawn, that historically, in Piemonte, where both the sparkling wine in Italy and the vermouth were born, it was common to have under the same roof aromatized wine and sparkling wine. You normally didn't have any wine in it. And on the other side, winery didn't have any vermouth or sparkling wine. And the reason was sugar, because to have sugar, if you are a Barolo producer, you are not allowed to have sugar free in the winery except for a coffee bag, maybe. They really put you in jail. So you're not allowed. It's sophisticazione. So historically, all the big brands used to put together the sparkling wine and the vermouth and the aromatized wine because this was possible. Now, Cocchi was one of these, but it was the smallest, still is one of the smallest. So this is why the sparkling wine, etc., etc. We came back for the 120th anniversary. It was like 2010. And it was like going against the windmill. I mean, Don Quixote de la Mancha, if you're familiar. Oh gosh, you went in good bar saying, you know, Cocchi, oh yeah, Cocchi, the Barolo Chinato. And now we have a vermouth. It's okay, must be good. What's the price? 10 euro. Oh no, we pay 5 euro. The big name costs 5 euro. Yeah, but 10 euro if you want it. So we got this kind of, we call it fish on the face, for at least 6 months. And then suddenly they started to taste it and say, but this is good. So it was good to see the surprise. This is good. This, of course, it's good. the sociological product situation of that years, and it was only 10 years ago. It looks like a century now. In these 10 years, Cocchi and all the colleagues, all the producers put together and were able to rebuild the perception, but even the law of vermouth. And it was not something you would give for granted because we had to put around the table the big guys, the small guys, the artisans, the industry, the massive, the old, the new. I mean, everybody of these producer had a different approach to the point. But we had one common point, which was we need to defend the identity of the product, or the way we'll lose it.
Yeah.
And the risk was extremely high. what is the identity and something you can defend against any other market producer in the world is the geographical origin.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to start from the geographical origin, but you have to prove it because the EEC law are quite precise in this. Once you have an appellation, it's strong, they will defend you, but you have to prove that you are the one. So we put together quite a big dossier. We send it to the region Piemonte, to Italy, and with very few corrections, it was approved, and this was 2017. Mm-hmm. Then it was sent to Europe, where the identity was already recognized since 1991. There were the two appellations recognized, Chambéry and Torino. And after only less than 2 years, actually, we got the EEC law. It was published like a few months ago, 2 months ago, I think. Mm-hmm. And you should imagine, you can't imagine how powerful it is to have an appellation. I am sitting, well, it happened I'm the president of the consortium, but I'm sitting on something like the Parmigiano Reggiano. Yeah. The world recognized Parmigiano Reggiano. You don't want a Parmesan, you want Parmigiano Reggiano. You don't want just a prosciutto, you want a San Daniele, you want a Spanish Joselito, or et cetera, et cetera. And this is strong, quite strong. So this is why I think we did a miracle. So Cocchi was just the yeast, but alone couldn't do anything. But being together, then you have the 90% of the production together, we could do it. So this is the story. It was a story of maybe also friendship. I mean, for some reason, I sit next to the Carpano, the Campari, the Martini, the Cinzano, the Gancia, and the small, like the Professor, what else? And it's interesting. I like. We did something. You have the pleasure of having built something, and we knew that we couldn't do it together. So that's good.
And I think it's amazing. You know, I think there's a lot of sort of places, especially sort of recently. One of my very dear friends, Franco Adami, who was on the consortio for Valdiviadene when they got Prosecco the Valdiviadene. You know, I remember him just being so happy. And again, I think you're right. It's a story of friendship. It's a story of people working together. And I think that's why actually these geographical indications and these appellations are so strong, because people defend what is theirs. And you know, and I think it's really, really interesting. And I think we're seeing quite a lot out there on it. And it's so powerful, you know. And so what makes Vermouth de Torino as opposed to Chambéry, or, you know, what are the things that for you guys give it terroir?
First of all, it was recognized to be the end of a long process. It's not only something flash. Oh, it's here. Okay. Oh no. In the law, we go back to the Savoy family. And we voted everything in it. So it was. It's like when you have a church or an abbey, which is back to the Middle Age. Okay, you use it now, but you recognize that this is back to the Middle Age. So it was, in a way, this is a big part of the law, because have you do you understand the word savoir-faire in French? Which is the skills, the knowledge. Yeah. I don't mean that every children can make its own vermouth in Piemonte, but for some reason the producer know what to do. They don't need to read on books because they have this recipe, the family tradition. Now this is a legacy, but it's also an ingredient. So this is why I think that the reason of being here is because we have this unique ingredient, which is the savoir-faire. Any newcomer in new market which start to produce vermouth, and are legally allowed to do it, of course, they start from different situations. They have to read on books how to make a vermouth, and same like when I say why Cocchi is good, simply because We did a lot of mistakes, but the mistakes were done 130 years ago. So for now, the recipe is solid, is consistent. We proved to be consistent in a way. So this is one of the non-written ingredients. Out of these, you have to use Italian wine, which is not always so automatic. In many food, you may blend the oil, you can blend with something. This is Italian wine. In case you do the Superiore, which is the let's say the limited edition, premium if you want, there should be at least 50% of Piemonte DOC wine.
Okay.
But what makes it also different is that the wormwood we grow in Piemonte, the Artemisia absinthium, seems to be unique. You know, Artemisia is a raw grass that can grow in many places, but it looks like the Artemisia grown in Piemonte is different. Think about it, that also the vine that grows here or in South Africa, etc., is different. So it happened also for Artemisia, like oranges, what else? It's difficult to understand because you don't think that, you know, it's a grass, a plant, a small plant. And in parallel, it happened also for like the mint. We have one of the best mint, I don't know if you know it.
No, I didn't know.
Is one of the most aromatic, etc. The best hazelnut probably come from Piemonte. I guess
The best truffles.
the truffle. Give it for granted, the truffle. No, I guess it's also because of weather. We have continental weather. We have all kind of terroir. We have hills, we have flatland, we have mountains. Every single plant can adapt to its natural
Habitat.
yeah. And so this is another point. Wormwood must be grown in Piemonte, full stop. We want, because of the savoir-faire, we want the product to be made and bottled in Piemonte, with very few exceptions. In case of company that used to do it for like 30, 40 years, legally it's 25, starting from 2017. Because all the established companies sometimes move just out of Piemonte, or they were sold, etc., but they keep the legacy and the heritage. Alcohol was a big issue. We were talking about going back to the royal law in, I don't remember, it was 1933, and it was minimum 50.5. We wanted to be 16. Against all the low alcohol aromatized wine, which were even no more vermouth. So for us, a vermouth of 14 or 12 is not consistent. Then we reached this point also talking to barmen. We wanted barmen to tell us what to think about vermouth, what should be the alcohol, etc. But historically it was, but we came out to be 16%. In the Riserva, in the Superiore, it's called, not Riserva, in the Superiore need to be 18.
Okay.
Because normally the Superiore maybe can age more, what else? So these are roughly the point. It looks simple, but this is what put together all the producers on these points. There are a few things like you may add honey to sugar it, but you may not add artificial. Industrial vermouth, well, just sweeteners, what else? So this is not allowed in Vermouth di Torino. So what happened? That Vermouth di Torino suddenly comes out to be the only one protected and guaranteed for the consumer. You don't want a mozzarella made with, I don't know, coconut milk. You
No.
want a buffalo.
Definitely not coconut.
No coconut milk for mozzarella. Maybe don't tell to some of our chefs, but anyway. So this came out as a protection for first for the consumer and the barman, etc. And we followed. We create a trend going up and not going down. So the product was in the direction of being more premium and better. So this is the story, and again, Europe allowed it. Now we are starting with the controls, with the trademarks, everything. The Italian custom will analyze all the product. So every batch will be guaranteed by an analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also something good. I mean, you know that you shouldn't do mistake. If there's a mistake, you know that it's that batch from, you know how it works, the DOC, etc. That's it. And in this situation, it happened that I used to work 8 hours and now I work.
I don't believe you've ever worked 8 hours, Roberto. I think that's maybe
It was 12.
exaggeration.
It was 12 before, now it's 16.
Yeah, that sounds better.
But the nicest part is that in a way, I add to my network of friends a total different bunch, which are bartender, liquor producer, vermouth fanatic, and you belong to this. I mean, if I was only a producer of Barolo, as I am, maybe you didn't watch it me so much, but
But I'm a wine girl. Hey, come on.
I know you are a super sommelier. No, so you're a master wine.
Yes.
Wow.
My
Awesome.
sins.
Oh, sorry. MW.
Then I went to the dark side and did spirits.
Yeah. So you too. You were hit on the way to Damascus, like me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the exciting thing about vermouth right now is I think actually all the work you guys have been putting in, and actually vermouth in general. I think there's a lot of guys that have kind of gone out there. I know we're doing a vermouth discussion in a couple of weeks' time, which I'm really excited by. We've got like Australian producers, German producers. Now it's such a wide category, and people are doing so many exciting different things. But I think what's exciting is that then brings the consumer in, because sometimes suddenly it's not something that's sitting in their fridge and for like 10 years and getting oxidized and horrible. It's something that people are using. And what we've found quite interesting over the last couple of months is that I'm seeing people are making Negronis at home, Manhattans at home, and that's exciting. It's people are learning now how to use vermouth. And
Yes.
And I think that's something that makes me really excited, because a lot of people probably ask you, and this is probably a question that's really good to bring up. How long can you keep a bottle of vermouth? How should you keep a bottle of vermouth? I think people need to understand that it's a wine. In the end of the day, there's things that can go horribly pear-shaped if you don't drink it quickly.
Yeah, I have to confess that in 2010, the answer would have been different. We used to give a longer time because we were used to this vermouth kept in a home bar by your aunt or your grandmother, what else, and they normally open a bottle. And this was for the American cousins. And the American cousin came back the following year, and they found the bottle, but just half. And that vermouth became like a Marsala or an old Porto. So this didn't help. Really, it was like the way to destroy the perception of the quality, etc. And even ice was never in it, because the way we do, I mean, for a century, we have been using vermouth like a liqueur. The mixology is not something we invented, with a few exceptions of Negroni and the Futurist, of course. 10 years ago, we used to say, 3 months is okay. Then ago it was 2 months. 8 years ago, it was 40 days. And I have to thank more probably the American market. Our importer there, Eric Seed, is a total fanatic in this. And we really leave some space now to write the opening date on the back label. But actually, I believe 1 month in fridge is good. Yeah. And normally follow with another sentence, which means But if you keep this bottle for 1 month in fridge, either you are sick or you have not enough friends. How can you keep a bottle for a month? I mean, come on, pour it. Ice, soda, tonic, VNT, do a VNT.
Yeah.
Can't keep it for a month, but it keeps. It keeps.
And I think you know that's what people are so scared of. I think they're like, what do we do with it? But there's so many things you can do with vermouth. And you know, even for me, if I've got a little bit of white vermouth left at the end of a bottle that's maybe been around a little bit, risotto, bam.
I do. I normally do a store of fish in the pan, and I put a zest of lemon and half a glass of. I use the Bianco Chazalette, which is so good.
So good.
And yeah, I let it evaporate, and it leaves this slightly bitter, but not too much. Cooking with the vermouth, you need to be aware that it releases bitterness.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to rebalance it, maybe with another glass of sparkling wine, and you do the flame. Wow, and that's perfect. Perfect.
But I mean, and I use Torino sometimes, just a little splash in like a stew or something that's quite rich, because usually I put wine or red wine, and then just to give it a little bit, kind of almost of that spice and that kind of slightly aromatic quality, just maybe like 50 ml. Beautiful.
Yeah. Let's put it in another way. When you cook, you normally add some nutmeg, you add some laurel, bay leaves, you call it.
Bay leaves.
You put rosemary, etc. It's all inside.
It's the cheap version. This is the meal in a bottle.
you got everything you want, all the spices plus one. You remember Harry Potter? That's it. This is vermouth. It's the Harry Potter drink.
And you know, we were talking earlier before we started recording, and I've just discovered a new drink with Cocchi, and that's the Cocchi Americano with the new fever tree, which is the white grape
oh yes,
apricot. And I mean, forget Aperol Spritz. I mean, that is now dead to me, you know, like Cocchi and white grape and apricot. It was delicious. And I was just like, yeah, put some mint in there, you know, just like get your friends round, big jug of this, happy days.
Actually, I am a fan of Aperol because it helps to being so powerful, being so ubiquitous. It helps people to move to the low ABV. So I'm not against, on the contrary. I like the idea, but also we have a motto, which is Rosa is the new orange. Come on, you can't drink orange every you know, go on the wine side. Aperol is a wine, is not a wine based. So go on the wine base, and the Rosa is a wine color. And this is why I like this pinky, very elegant rosemary.
Deliciosa.
So what I think is that the low ABV doesn't need that you become a teetotaler to the extreme, because low, but it means that you drink you drink 2 glasses. You need to hydrate yourself, especially today. We are 33 Celsius. It's disinfectant, maybe.
And I mean, like, one thing I love, you talked about chazalettes, and you know, one of the Bianco or the dry with some soda water if you don't want something so sweet, and loads of ice, absolutely fabulous on a hot summer's day. You know, like, I think. And I mean, Torino, I put in every cocktail out there, you know, if it calls for vermouth, I'm like, hello, my friends. And, you know, I think that's what's so exciting. You've got, it's not just one vermouth. You've got a family of vermouth. And
yeah, you got all the color, you got all the expressions. Everything is wine-based, everything is agricultural, wine, botanicals, sugar, that's it. And each one of the 5 Cocchi has a reason to be there, starting from the Rosa, the Cocchi Rosa, the Bianco, but also finishing with the Barolo Chinato. I mean, we have been promoting Barolo Chinato, the same story. We were the last producer left on the market for years, and there was only more Cocchi. The category was lost. Uh, of course, the competition was because of the Amaro. The Amaro in the 70s, the 80s, the Amaro was quite powerful. Advertising on Amaro, any kind of Amaro. I don't want to remind you all the names, but Barolo Chinato was more expensive. It was Barolo based, even not just one. It was Barolo, which cost 5 times, and it was saved by the one idea. That's quite interesting under the marketing point of view. It's a product that was saved by the idea that it matched with chocolate, with dark chocolate. Starting from this, we recreated a little market, and after 5 years, we were now 10 producer, but the appellation was saved. And so you see how working on side things, watching the product from another angle, sometimes it's a lifesaver or it's survival. This is why I'm not losing time to make a panettone. It doesn't too much.
And I think that's the thing. I think it's about teaching people how to drink something and not be afraid to use it. You know, like for me, I would much rather drink Chinato with chocolate fondant, or, you know, with something more kind of rich and heavy as a dessert than any sweet wine, because I don't want something so sweet. I want a little bit of bitterness, and I want something. And for those of you who don't understand Barolo, Barolo is one of the best wines in the world. I love Barolo. We can stop there now because Barolo is amazing. That's me done. But you know, it's something that allows you just to kind of, it helps your stomach settle, and it's just a different way of looking at it and drinking it and enjoying it. And you know, I think it's with sort of categories like vermouth and things like that, it's about getting people to understand how they can use it in multiple different ways.
You know what we also did a few years later, after the dark chocolate story, which is still on, we did a research on cigar, and it happened to be very good with cigar. Of course, we used Toscano, but I was asked from the British Tobacco to work on this, and we've been smoking all of this cigar. And Barolo Chinato fits. And the curiosity is that you know that Barolo as a wine is highly tannic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Imagine that Quina, which goes in the Barolo, is one of the most tannic spice, you know. So you add the most
Tannic wine.
botanical in the most tannic wine, and maybe you want to smoke a tobacco or a cigar with it, which is tannic by definition. Should be impossible. Not at all. Not at all. Because it's all a matter of rebalancing, like you balance a cocktail. For some reason, the Barolo and the Quina, okay, it's not that easy, but Cocchi, again, I did mistakes 100 years ago. So we're very good in keeping the situation under control. And for some reason, maybe the sugar, it rebalances also the tannins of the cigar. So Barolo Chinato is a wine for cigar. Why not?
Why not? And you know, I think that's the fun thing about pairing food with anything or drink with anything, because you get some real surprises that you just didn't think would work, or you think, how did that work? That is delicious. And I think it's all about kind of finding those, that's the joy of being a sommelier or a bartender. It's finding those small little gems that you just don't expect to work. Yeah. And that's sort of like the wow moment, isn't it?
You know, Don, what's against this? Prejudice. The rule is never have prejudice. Not only in your life, which you learn traveling normally, you know, but in food and wine, never have prejudice. Try, research. Even weird situation you wouldn't imagine. Try. I mean, the worst can be you spit. And through this, we discovered phenomenal things of linking, etc., etc. Because at the very end, okay, oh, we do the product. Now, what do we do with it? So this is normally the process. Oh, we invented another vermouth. Yeah, but what do we do with it? So this is the funny side of a new vermouth or a new wine, etc. What do we do with it? If it works, the consumer understanding. If it doesn't work, there's no marketing that can support, no investment. It doesn't work, and that's how we do. I mean, Cocchi is not very commercially, I would say. We work more on identity. A lot of product we did it sometimes was to save the appellation and not because there was a business. The business came maybe years later, etc., etc. But it was more with this attitude to save. I mean, I am Barolo Chinato because it belongs to me. I am a Piemontese. I'm sitting in Castiglione Falletto in the vineyard. My grandfather used to do it. My great. These belong to me. You remember the story of the cheese and the robiola that the body is robiola cheese. Probably the other part can be, I don't know, Barolo can be. So I belong to this, but also the product belongs to me.
Yeah.
The philosophical story. Funny.
And I think that's absolutely the perfect way to end. And, you know, and I think for me, you know, if I think vermouth, I think you, and I think your family, because your son is fabulous. And, you know, and I think you feel part of the family. And I think that's what it should be about. It should be about that kind of, that sense of place, that sense of history, that sense of family. And, you know, for me, these are some of the best vermouths out there, if not the best. And it is such a pleasure talking to you all the time. And I cannot wait to finally get my ass to see you in Italy when this is all
Please, I have a vermouth ice cream for you in the fridge. So come on.
I'm so excited by vermouth ice cream. I cannot tell you.
So thank you so much.
Mille, Roberto.
Really, thank you to everybody.
Brilliant.
Thank you to the Whisky Exchange. What a partner.
No, we love you. Okay,
Ciao.
we'll start the recording.